Welcome to another R-Class Builder Program Roundtable. It's been a little while since we've done one of these. I'm happy to be back. It has been a little bit of a gap between the last one and this one. This one is called What? A discussion on sound mitigation. So we're talking about sound and how to help around that topic. My name is Chris Caparuscio. I am a business development manager with ROCKWOOL Insulation. Along with me, we have Nick Stone, who is the business development manager up in the Northeast United States. We have Chris Jessen, the ROCKWOOL business development manager up in the North Central region of the country. And we have Michael Crane, the business development manager down in the South Central Texas region. Nick, do you want to introduce the rest of the panel here?
Sure, absolutely. We have, I guess, starting on my left side here, we have Joe Cook, part of Catalyst Construction, with the other half of Mr. I'm trying to send emails at the last minute, Travis Brungard. And then above that, we have Randy Williams up in the Minnesota market. And we have the big guests of the night, Randy Rand up in Maine. I don't know if Randy, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, or if you want to go to that next slide, Chris.
Yeah, let's start that. Yeah.
Let's figure out who Randy Rand is.
Oh shit!
Handsome devil, male model, international man of mystery.
Randy, you have the floor.
Perfect. So I'm Randy Rand. I'm a builder up here in Maine, in the Orono area. So right in the central part of the state. We build in climate zone 6 currently. So it's a little bit about our market. I'm also the training director for Passive House Maine. So I oversee all our education for builders, code officers, designers around the energy code is our main focus right now. Plus, we're developing an entire new curriculum to just train people on high performance building and passive house building. So that's me in a gist, and been in the industry for 20 plus years. So.
I see you're all about that too, because it's right here on your chest, I believe. That's the same logo there, right? Yeah, there it is. Yep.
Yeah, the little lobster. Yep.
Perfect.
There we go.
And then you got involved with ROCKWOOL a long time ago, but you became intimately involved when you won something. I don't remember what that was. What was that?
Yeah, so I won that one and done contest, the House Full of ROCKWOOL a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, something like that. So we did our personal project with that, and blanketed the entire thing with a ton of comfort board, and soundproofed all our interior walls, and even did sub slab insulation where it was a retrofit project. So we removed an existing concrete slab and, insulated, put in proper drainage, and put it all back together.
So soundproofing was a part of that when you were doing the initial design?
It certainly was. Yeah.
All right. Well, this is living proof that the one and done program that we're still currently running, we are still giving away houses of ROCKWOOL. Living proof it actually happens, and someone wins those houses. So I'm happy that you're able to verify that for us.
Well, I'm glad I could.
I was just recently up there and checking out his house there, and when we first got there, it was just a standard ranch. Now, what did you do to the front door to make it look so good, Randy? I got to gloat for you. It was so freaking cool.
You almost should have shared a picture. That would have made it easier. But
oh, yeah, right. I should have.
Yeah. Yeah, we a standard ranch is pretty bland. So we had to spice it up a little bit. We basically eliminated all the windows on the front because it was north facing roadway. And put a little bump out on the front of it where it's got a single pitch roof, and it protrudes out from the front of the house about 5 to 6 feet at a slight angle. And then the roof comes down and waterfalls down the sidewall. So we get the metal roof will waterfall and become the siding on the side of that on the side of that roof. So yeah,
Pretty cool.
all covered in glass. So oh, look at this. There it is.
Awesome.
It's
That is
rare
cool.
yeah. So it kicks out at like a little, 20 degrees or so, and just adds a little flair to a basic ranch.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And also,
Awesome.
what did you do down in your basement?
We like inside or outside?
Down in your basement in particular, what you and the boys are going to be doing.
So we had the idea, of course, I was down there. We had a major water issue, hence removing the concrete slab and adding new stone and drainage. And while we were down there, the kids were like, oh, why don't we dig a little bit deeper and maybe we can swing some golf clubs down here in the off season. So now we've got a little 2-foot sunken hole in half the garage to be able to swing our clubs. And, maybe someday down the road have a simulator.
I love it. That's fantastic. I'm very jealous.
Yeah.
Just
Not that
one
we
of
have
those
super long
things,
winters down here, but
those changes on the fly that you make, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would say digging out a slab is kind of an on the fly decision that everyone makes, right? Like it's just a small undertaking. No big deal. Totally fine.
Yeah, it wasn't the easiest dig either. It was all clay, so it became pretty mucky and very difficult to dig in a short headroom space. Trying to get a backhoe under there, and yeah, it was a fun process.
Well, we appreciate again the I don't know, the partnership that we've kind of built and throughout the last couple of years and getting to know you and everything that we've been involved in with you, and for you joining this kind of last minute and jumping on and I don't know, diving in with us. We really appreciate it.
Glad to do it.
Oh, what happened?
Uh-oh.
What's the breaking news?
ESPN.
What is it?
ESPN, somebody's.
That's
Nothing
fine.
good?
I don't know.
All right.
I'm trying to turn it down.
Nick,
I
go
thought
to the
Randy was
next
going
one.
to announce the next one and done winner. I thought you were breaking news. It's a tease. You guys are killing us with the anticipation. Look at these dorks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the gang is back together. Like I said, it's been a little while since we have been I don't know, all together kind of chatting about building science and all that, I don't know, falls under that umbrella, I suppose. And I thought that this was a great picture because it's the rest of the faces that are on here. What do you mean? What was that face, Travis? You look you're in the middle of obviously a very intense, well thought out discussion. It was a great time.
It's the quiet
And
skepticism of both Randy and Joe looking at me going, this guy's what he's talking about. And Nick laughing for
they're
it.
listening
It's really
intently.
nice.
But I liked this picture because behind you, there's a couple different things that play pretty well with today's discussion. You got a staggered stud wall behind Nick. You have a wall with resilient channels behind Randy over there. And behind everybody, that red wall that you can't tell what it is from this picture, but if you were at the International Builder Show, you probably, and well, if you were at the International Builder Show and came to the ROCKWOOL booth, you probably, I don't know, indulged maybe a little bit in the sound tunnel that we had there and all that it showed. Everything I saw on Instagram after IBS was videos of people walking through that sound tunnel. It was, you're never going to believe this. I'm walking through right now. Come with me. And people taking their phones through the sound tunnel and then hearing the sound difference on the show floor and inside that insulated tunnel. So I thought it was a pretty good picture to kind of introduce the sound capabilities of ROCKWOOL and something that I mean, obviously we're all familiar with it. We're all kind of, well, we were on a ROCKWOOL roundtable here. Obviously, we know some of the things that the products can do. But yeah, I just thought that was a pretty cool picture to start with. So, Nick, let's talk about where we normally want to stop sound coming in or keep the sound in. And from here, I think we're going to drop off. Chris, Michael, and I will be in the background doing a Q&A. If you guys have any questions throughout the roundtable, like always, send them in. We'll answer in real time if we can. One of us will pop back on and toss them out to the guys if we can't answer it, or if it is a specific question for, you know, those that know, the guys that will stay on the panel here. So we'll drop off. We'll be in the background. But Nick, I'm going to give this to you, buddy.
Absolutely. All right, boys, we ready?
Yeah.
So, you know, as I started putting this this slideshow together, I just want to start off by saying I didn't realize how much stuff was involved with sound. This was a huge eye opener for me, and I'm really excited to go through some of these details and really hear from you guys what you're doing on site, because I clearly thought it was much simpler than it really was, and we have some really nice options that are out there that I just simply overlooked. And I think that in the sound category, I think that's quite common for us to you know, when it comes to sound, to say, oh, it's just sound, and you know, it's no big deal. You know, traditionally we were thinking, okay, it's sound. Let's start in our master bedroom, our master bathroom. Oh, I want to put a kind of something in my basement where I can do some woodworking or something like that. Randy, it's just kind of, you know, say 5 years ago, is that pretty common areas that we would see most our soundproofing in your builds?
Okay, which Randy are you talking to?
Oh, we'll go with the man of the hour, Randy Rand.
Oh, gee. Yeah, sound, I come from a bit of a sound background. We've done a lot of audiology type of stuff. And then jumping into the passive house world, we're doing a lot of exterior insulation. So like we drown exterior noise out so quickly that everything on the inside is, you know, tenfold worse, right? So you hear those little things from every room. So it's always been a top priority for what we've been dealing with.
But have you seen, say, you know, 5-10 years ago, you know, was there more common areas that people were saying, okay, you know, it's just sound, I want to stick to these areas? Kind of what does that, you know, look like, is from your experience and working with your customers and things like that?
Yeah, you know, it's the bedrooms have always been the initial part that people have always said, hey, you know, we're in here talking, we don't want to hear the guests or everybody else or whatever they're doing. So we want to make sure the bedrooms were always priority number one. I think then people quickly realized some of the benefits of it, and I think the bathrooms definitely came shortly thereafter. You know,
would it be fair to say that bedrooms and bathrooms historically have been like the go-to for soundproofing areas? Now, Travis, what about you? Are you seeing the same thing? I mean, we're talking up in Maine. You know, people in Maine, Vermont, right? We care about stuff like that. You guys on the West Coast, you guys are crazy. Tell me a little bit about what you're
Right out in the middle of the map, dude. You're killing me with this West Coast visit.
You're more
You mean
West,
like West Coast of Missouri?
West Coast of the Missouri River. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we obviously, Joe and I deal with high performance clients, folks that care about every aspect of their home, from indoor air quality to energy efficiency to sound control. And the complaints that we usually get have more to do with external sources, because we do a fair amount of infill building. And so, you know, we're worried about the busy street that's a half a block away, or if you guys are dealing with this in your market or not, it's leaf blower season here in the Midwest. People are cleaning up their lawns, and it's all weed whackers and leaf blowers all day. So for the folks that are out on acreage, you know, you fancy folks in the Northeast with your giant wooded lots, we don't have quite as many of those. Joe and I get to build on a few of those a year, but not most of our residential areas. So all of our renovation work, those are the considerations that people are after, and we certainly do things with windows and wall assembly strategies that help mitigate sound. But the absorption, reflection, diffusion strategies for sound control are pretty wide ranging. Most of the stuff that you get from us is, you know, safe and sound and interior walls for your bathroom privacy, certainly between floors. It's a basement market here, and everyone wants their kids to go down in the basement to be rowdy. So I think, gosh, Joe, I think that was what, 12 years ago, the Somberg basement. We did like 3,000 square feet of R23 in the ceiling of the basement to keep those kids quiet. So that's the stuff that we're dealing with here in our coastal environment, you know.
Yeah. You know, I'm gonna have to get you a shirt that says West Coast man. So, you know, one thing that we're kind of seeing as kind of a shift, at least for us at ROCKWOOL, what we really notice is, you know, post-pandemic, it really was kind of driven by this idea of, you know, bathrooms, bedrooms. Those are kind of my priority areas. But now we're starting to see a lot of a kind of big shift in this market. For us, this is one of our #1 growth areas because what's happening is since COVID has come, more and more people are working from home. We have more office time where, okay, we got to jump on a conference call with somebody. And, you know, for me, I live in a house with no soundproofing. And my kids right now have to go outside because it just they won't be quiet enough while we're on this, right? So what we started to see is this evolution of, or at least from my perspective, and I'm curious from your perspective as well here, that we're starting to see people, okay, well, maybe I want to migrate this idea of just soundproofing in my bedroom to maybe my floor system, like Travis just alluded to, maybe to other areas in my house as well. Now, is that something you guys are experiencing in your prospective markets as well? Maybe Randy Williams could kind of tell me a little bit about his market.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we have a lot of vacation second properties in my neck of the woods, and a lot of those people are still working, and they do have home offices in these, you know, even in a second home. And we are seeing some, you know, some mitigation in those areas. And then again, it's traditional, a little bit between the floors, like Travis said. That was going to be one of my topics, but thanks, Travis. That's okay. That's okay. And in the bathrooms and bedrooms as well. Our Winnie Pretty Good house that we have going right now, that customer was very concerned about master bedroom being quiet and the bathroom being quiet. So those were definitely addressed for sound.
I see Chris jumping on. Chris, you if there's something you want to jump in on?
Two quick things. So obviously what we're going to talk about quite a bit is the insulation side and how you can stop vibration, as we'll talk about, you know, throughout the wall system itself. But when we look at something like a bathroom with all those hard surfaces, is there something a homeowner can do or a designer can do without ripping the walls apart that can help stop some of that vibration and echo and just the noise transfer within a room like that? That's a question. So I'll just field that one first.
A balanced
Carpet.
diet is your starting point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
In a bathroom.
No, I mean, what can someone do? I mean, we all understand what can stop vibration, what can stop echoing, and what impacts sound. So from a perspective where you actually have that knowledge, what can someone do? What can they do from their minimal, like with minimal intrusions, I guess, to their lifestyle, or without ripping that whole thing apart and redesigning it?
Carpet.
You add a bath mat, you hang some
Carpet.
towels. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I was kidding. I said just bad carpeting. That'll take care of it in the bathroom.
Yeah, if you've got hard surfaces, you want something that can actually absorb instead of reflecting sound. And so if you're not going to tear into the walls, your options are somewhat limited. As Randy said, you could carpet that bathroom, but that's a really bad idea for indoor air quality and generally frowned upon stylistically as well. But, you know, a nice cushy bath mat is going to give you something. And then hanging towels on towel bars for outside the shower, or a hand towel at the sink. That's really kind of all you're going to get, in my estimation, for things in there that can drink up the sound and hold it. If you don't want to tear out what's in the walls, you could layer up additional Quiet Rock, I think is the product we use, right, Joe? Wasn't it Quiet Rock? You could have additional layers. I'm sure Randy Rand's got a whole catalog of passive out stuff.
So
No,
what I'm kind of hearing is that, maybe it's important to put soundproofing in the first time so we don't have to try to do something later on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and it kind of depends what if they're worried about sounds leaving the bathroom. Travis and I will put in our typical Broan, I think it's 744 fan can in our bathrooms. And it's not the loudest, but it does have enough noise that it kind of will muffle. You won't hear what's going on in there because you hear the fan.
Gotcha.
The one thing that
Cover
bothers
sound.
me the most from sound from bathrooms is after you flush the toilet and the tank filling up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know one of the first things when I was remodeling, 20 years ago, we were if we had a stack from the second floor bathroom running through the first floor, we'd always insulate that stack just to try to minimize the water rushing down. If someone's in their kitchen, they're not hearing the second floor bathroom flush.
Should back up just a little bit. How does sound transmission occur? What are we trying to do to limit sound movement? There.
That's a perfect transition, and I'll hold the other question till a little bit later.
So Randy, why don't you tell us a little bit about sound and how it transfers?
Let me take the air. I'll take because air transmission, of course, is probably the easiest thing to try to do. Air sealing is just like you would do on an exterior wall. Make sure that any penetrations that go through are sealed up, go through between rooms are sealed off. Try not to put outlets back to back on the same wall if you can.
So just like here in this diagram, right? Outlet to outlet.
Yep. Jump ducts or through wall ducts if you have hopefully that not in a bathroom, you don't have a return air, but if you have a return air that is maybe inside a wall cavity that happens to be back to back to a hallway, that of course is going to make a lot of noise. Putty packs on the back of those outlet covers and back of switches, again, just like you would do maybe if you were trying to do some regular air sealing. That's one way. Of course, absorbing sound would be next. Somebody else want to take that? How do we absorb sound?
Travis is all over this one. He gave me the wink.
I'm all over all of it, though. I don't want to talk the whole time. I defer. But for absorption, yeah, that's where we're typically going to be utilizing your products. Like that's what Safe and Sound is for. We're trying to, catch the sound and not transfer it through. So we muffle, we absorb, and that can be done with, a few different products. Certainly, the whole purpose of acoustical sealant, as we use it in all these projects that people talk about, and not so much us, but other people that really like to get black sticky stuff all over their stuff. You can use that sealant to do some of the air sealing that Randy's talking about, but it was originally developed, I think, for these transition areas, floor to wall, panel to panel, around boxes, anything that can transfer, and it remains fluid. It doesn't ever solidify. So it can absorb that vibration without transferring it through. And then the product that I mentioned previously, the Quiet Rock, that's 2 1/4-inch layers of drywall instead of 1/2-inch solid piece of gypsum. You get this sandwich with acoustical sealant between the layers, so it's more absorptive in that way. It does not transfer through. That vibration is absorbed.
And another thing to kind of point out here, which is a big gripe of mine, is when you're thinking of like soundproofing for insulation in your wall cavities, it's this idea of longevity too. Make sure you have products that have enough body to them, so that when you put them in there, they don't start slumping on themselves. So over time, you get those gaps, up here at the top of the wall assembly. Obviously down here, if you have continuity all around, that sound will, when you hit that denser mat, it's going to slow itself down. But if it has voids up here at the top because of slumpage over time, those are things to really consider when designing these walls as well.
The other thing that happens, Nick, when you get that slumpage is, hang on, I got a train.
Talking about sound.
Yeah.
we're not in a very well soundproof office at the moment. Yeah, when you get that slumpage too, is you eliminate when you fill those cavities, you want to have a small air gap in them too. And when you get that additional slumpage, then you start to eliminate those benefits too of some of that. So it has that contact from surface to surface.
So we have air, or air sealing, absorption. The other one is isolation, right? If we can separate the product, much like sound channel, when we decouple some of these products to help reduce the vibration through them.
Let's see here.
Another
While you're looking,
I was just going to say, what I like about this picture you got here, Nick, that from experience that we've seen is that sound transmission over the wall. So your green line here that goes over the wall, if that is not capped off, that is a huge source for transmission too. So I'm glad to see that you have that highlighted there.
Yeah, I first found out about that firsthand in an office building where they would, I had insulation at the roof line, then they had that separation where they have the drop ceiling, and then they, were soundproofing their walls. They couldn't figure out why they couldn't control the sound. Well, it's because it was just going from one roof to the next ceiling, rather, and just carrying that sound very easily across that assembly. Does anyone else have anything they want to add before I move on?
I was just gonna throw in, Joe and I built a music studio, like a basement finish music studio for an enthusiast years ago. And one of the things I should have mentioned when we talked about catching sound is there's a whole acoustics industry for, hobbyists and obviously professionals that are basically wrapping comfort board in pretty fabric and hanging it on the wall. And restaurants use it too. Like, if you've ever been to a nice restaurant with nice high ceilings and they painted all their ductwork black up there, and it's a big, pretty spiral duct, but it would be an echo chamber because of the concrete floor. Those volumes of space can really do wonders with a little bit of absorptive comfort board or similar product. I've never seen comfort wrap to be a little too formless, I think, but I know that certainly the stuff that we used was essentially just 2-inch comfort board with a pretty fabric wrap on it and some click panels on the wall. Those sorts of things are, I think, a game changer if you are in an echoey space. And they use them in office conference rooms and stuff. It's a really simple solution that obviously is very effective.
Nick and I were just talking about that at our BS and Beer last week, because we were at a bar that had that exact situation.
Yeah, it was one of those things where we were, 3 feet from one another, and it was, what'd you say? Because it was just, every noise was just circling around you. Absolutely. Great point, Travis. And then I kind of want to take a look at some different sound options, and kind of like, for instance, our normal sound. You can kind of see where that falls: crying baby, a train. But how is sound measured? I don't know if maybe Randy Williams, if you want to talk about how is sound measured.
It's in decibels. So when we're looking to, well, there's also sound transmission class, which is going to be how we reduce or how we measure with the reduction. So like you have listed there, normal conversations in the neighborhood of 65 decibels. When we're looking at how do we reduce that with the sound transmission class, that's basically room to room. So if we had a room that we had, let's say, a radio playing Travis's favorite building science podcast in, and it was at 75 decibels, measured at 75 decibels. If we go to the next room and we measure that same podcast at 50 decibels, we have a 25 decibel reduction, or 25 sound class, that sound class transmission reduction. That's basically how it's measured.
So what was that saying you used again? What was it measured in?
It's measured in decibels, but it's the sound class transmission There we go, right there.
Oh, the
And there's,
STC?
yep, and I was about to measure or talk about the outdoor-indoor transmission class too, which is similar. It's just, it takes in a little bit different frequency. Some of the, the truck noises, which maybe vibrate at a little bit lower frequency than human speak would be at.
Mhm. And this is actually so the STC is for the indoor, just to kind of recap quick, and then the OITC is outdoor indoor transmission class. Now Travis alluded to this earlier that we're building houses closer and closer together. Maybe Travis or Joe, even one of you guys could jump in and just talk about your experience, because this is not something I initially think of from a sound perspective, is this idea of outdoor noise, but it's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we've had really good success. Obviously, the quietest houses we've ever built are ones that we do exterior insulation. We do ROCKWOOL, and the clients just rave and rave about it. But to Randy's point earlier, once we started just, building our houses as airtight as we possibly could, we could have just a standard in-cavity insulation, and the house is still really quiet. And it goes, quality windows help. And I think, as you're trying to talk to your clients about this, they think it's important, but if you can actually show them a house that you've done, then
Right.
they will see the difference.
What type of wall system? So you said you've done it, so maybe you can talk a little bit about what that looked like, that design.
It's just a 2x6 advanced framing, so 24 on center. A R23 insulation. And then if we can do an exterior insulation in addition to that, we will. But even if it's just your standard sheeting, really good air sealing, good windows, and it makes such a huge difference. Especially like my house was built in 1970, and like I'm up in my bedroom because that's the quietest, furthest spot from the kids who have just got home. So hopefully no one hears them.
Absolutely. So up on the screen here, I just kind of put up a traditional wall that just has, your cavity. So this is an exterior wall, has your traditional exterior insulation, just sheathing, nothing on the outside. And then going to what you guys are doing by adding that exterior insulation, and this one design in particular, is adding a 1.5 inches to the outside, and we've increased our STC rating by 4. We've gone from a 35 up to a 39. And so you guys have built walls both ways. Obviously, this is just a number. Describe to us what that sounds like, what that feels like to be in that building. Is there a real noticeable difference, or is it just a couple options? There are a couple different rating there.
Yeah, it's night and day. I mean, it's very similar to what Chris Cap was describing at the IBS sound tunnel. Like you're in a crazy exhibition hall. It's loud as hell. Can't hear the people that you're standing there talking to, and you walk into the sound chamber wrapped in ROCKWOOL. It's obviously a total game changer. Nick, the house that you and Chris Jessen hung comfort board on, we used a 2-inch exterior comfort board, 80 on that side wall, and that house, you notice it immediately. It's not in a super busy street neighborhood, but there's a lot of lawns around it, and there's a beautiful running trail right behind it that has to be maintained by city equipment. And so that's one of the first things that the clients talk about, is how quiet their house is. So I mean, I see 35 to 39, it doesn't sound like much. Joe and I are even numbers guys. We hit that 40. So we went to 2-inch.
No,
we had a project, and it was a single, no exterior insulation. We did do a zip R, so they had, I guess you would say it had exterior insulation. But there was a really busy highway like half mile from this house, and if you sat in the primary bedroom, you couldn't hear it at all but you'd open up the window and then you could hear the highway. So we'd like to show that to the client and anybody else who just happened to be in the house, like working. We're like, check this out. Now you hear it, now you don't.
Sound is really one of those things that immediately you can get that emotional reaction by saying, wow, what a huge difference. And that sound vibration from that exterior. I had this one customer I was working with who lived next to an airport, and this was a big concern for him. And we actually ended up doing 3 inches of exterior insulation on that project, just because he was so close and he could just hear every plane that was taking, like Randy with the train, right? You know, you can just hear every one that goes by. And boy, did it make a big difference. And he was so pleased after the fact.
That can be kind of a double-edged sword too. I had one the house that we have that has exterior insulation, ROCKWOOL 2 inches. They had a storm blow through, lost 12 trees in their yard, and they didn't know till the next morning when they woke up. So if you're gonna do this, make sure you have a weather radio. Make sure that you know if there's something bad going on outside.
That is a valid point. I didn't think of that from that perspective.
The other thing in our area is with the winter storms, we lose power quite often. So the entire neighborhood fires up their generators, right? And to sleep through the night when we've got 5 days without power, you know, that's pretty tough to do. But having, you know, exterior insulation sure makes a difference.
Absolutely.
We talked about that with the roof as well on that same house, Nick, where we did where you and Chris were hanging 2 inch on the wall. I know there's some sweet pictures on the R class side of Jess and working with Joe on the roof with a 5 inch, and that's a metal roof. It's like what do they call it? The tympanic effect, like timpani drum. Anytime we get a heavy rain or hail in Kansas City, it sounds like, you know, you're under fire in a war zone, but not inside that house. You can't hear it.
Right. Absolutely. That's you know, I think that moving forward, that exterior insulation, because how close everything is getting, is going to play a larger and larger role in designs in the future for sure. Now, this is really the part that blew my mind. And I don't know, maybe after we talk about these, you guys can kind of talk about what types of walls you're doing as well. Because honestly, I really didn't think about resilient channel as really helping at all. I know this is terrible for me to say, I get that, but this blew my mind. So what we're looking at here up on the screen is a transition from a standard interior wall. You have your 2x4s, 5/8 sheetrock on one side. We have AFB on, or basically what's Safe and Sound is, acoustical bat in the cavity, 3 inches, so we have that 1/2 inch void in there, and then another layer of 5/8 sheetrock. That is kind of the base for all 3 of these. But what we do change is a handful of details along the way. And as we go from one step to the next, we can start to see how much these small details can radically change the game of your sound in these wall assemblies. Going from your standard wall, we have an STC of 38. This is still, great to have that soundproofing in there. But then when we put resilient channel in there, now we've increased it by 9. Now we're up to a 47. Now, how cool is that? Maybe one of you guys can jump on and talk more about one of your experiences with this, going to that resilient channel, because that is a big jump.
I'll be honest, I haven't used resilient channel in about 15 years. We haven't used it, and I had no idea it was this effective either, Nick. So I'm really grateful that you share this. This is why we come on the webinar. I got to learn from the people who know.
Yeah.
This was one of our go-to methods, adding resilient channel when we were doing a lot of audiology suites, and where sound was critical, this did give us one of our biggest gains, and we noticed it. It isolates the drywall from your studs so much, and then it also provides a decent air gap between the back of your drywall and your insulation, so it makes a huge difference. So we relied on that pretty extensively in those situations.
Yeah, that's
Just
a good
wanna-
point. A lot more of the time you do see this more on the commercial side than necessarily maybe the residential side, and maybe that's why it's not quite as popular on that residential side of it. Randy, you were going to say something?
The thing I was going to say is if you're installing that, you got to make sure that you understand which way it has to go, because there's an up and a down to it. So that as long as you have just that single leg, that attachment point has to be at the bottom of the channel, not on the top side.
So I'm a newbie to this this resilient channel. Why is that?
It allows it to hang more. You have a better isolation, I guess. It's not, you can't force it into the wall. It's going to want to hang away from the wall a little bit better.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, there's a one leg and then there's a two leg resilient channel. Which one is better, and why would you use one or the other?
I've never used the two leg. Randy, have you ever? No, it's
No.
always been the one leg that I've used.
That's what we used as the two leg, and that's why we stopped using it. We didn't find it to be particularly effective or noticeably. We didn't measure anything with equipment. We just did it, and then we're like, oh, this was kind of a pain, and I didn't see a big difference, so we went away from it. If we had done the single leg, maybe we would have noticed.
So we have used the double leg for ceiling applications.
Hmm.
So, and I don't recall if that probably makes sense, and why is that the single leg's probably not quite made to hang from a ceiling. So that's probably the double leg. I don't know that for sure, but that's tended to be where we used it.
Yeah. And do you tend to see that more on that commercial side, like I was saying earlier, or yeah?
Yeah, there's not many people introducing it in our market inside, but it is, you get such a gain, and the cost of it is pretty inexpensive.
Yeah.
So I think as sound becomes more important, you'll start to see it popping up more frequently.
Yeah.
The other thing you got to be aware of is your jams. So if you have a door jam, you just got to remember that it's going to get wider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a valid point. I didn't think about that. That's a very good point.
You learn that the hard way.
Yeah, it sounds like something. Can anybody speak to how you attach the sheetrock to it? Is it just standard?
Fine thread screws.
Okay.
The other thing about that, Randy, is, putting them on a wall with a door, maybe you're not necessarily looking for that sound deadening between your hallway that you're going into and the room. So it's usually in most of our applications is we were strategic in the walls that we put it on. So, just those dividing walls, parting walls, right?
Yep. I had one where I was separating a living room from a bedroom, and that's where the door happened to be, and that's where I used it and learned the hard way. Yeah, on that one. Yeah.
So we messed with mass-loaded vinyl and hat channel together, and I can't think of a less enjoyable installation than trying to roll out mass-loaded vinyl overhead. It's a nightmare. So the idea of having a more rigid material that you can handle to work with that is far superior.
So it sounds a lot like there's some challenges in the way. What if you decided, hey, let's jump to a double stud wall? Because going from a traditional wall, we move, we're at 38, we add resilient channel, boom, we got 9 more. Well, you know what? Let's double down and get 9 more, right? And when we jump to a double studded wall, so again, it has the same wall assembly makeup, has 5/8, 2x4, it has 16 on center, safe and sound. It has 3 inches, but it's doubled, with 1 inch air gap between the two layers, with 5/8 on both sides. Now that moves from a 38 to a 47. Now we're up to a 56. And maybe this is something you guys do a little bit more. I certainly know I see it more. Maybe Joe, are you guys building this? Are you seeing this in your market?
No, the only thing that Travis and I, this was pre-Catalyst, we were building townhomes for a builder, and they had a common wall, and it was similar to that. It was two walls separated by an air gap, and one thing, we got a lot of complaints from our clients or the homeowners, but never about they could hear the person next to them. That looks to me something that you probably could speak to, being from the Northeast. Everyone does the double stud walls up there.
We do an awful lot of these, and in particular, like you said, those adjoining walls, we do a lot in those areas. But that we do love our double studded walls. But I'm more interested in maybe what Randy Rand has seen up in Maine. What are you seeing up there?
Yeah, it's not common practice yet to do something like this. We do a shared top and bottom plate, so a 2x6 top and bottom plate, and do 2x4 studs staggered 24-inch on center on each side, right? So that gives us the isolation, and we get our air gap by using 3.5 inches of comfort bat and leaving, a 1 inch, or it's a little more than 1 inch air gap on one side. So we do a kind of the same thing. It's just a shared top and bottom plate and alternating where the studs are.
And Randy, what about you? Are you seeing some more of these up in your neck of the woods?
No, not. I mean, every once in a while a staggered stud, but usually it's they're just stuffing full of insulation and hoping for the best, I guess.
Yeah.
I was, when we were in the booth at IBS this year, I was really amazed by how many people came up and really wanted to talk about the different methods of sound mitigation. I didn't realize it was so big. It seemed like every time we gave the presentation on it, there were 20 people that hung around and wanted to ask questions. Right. We're just inundated. It was good. It was fun.
So kind of going back to Vermont where I am, we see a lot of this double stud in particular around mechanical rooms. It's huge around that mechanical isolation area, just trying to keep out that buzzing or water moving or something like that. That's a big area. Or the master bedroom, master bath. It's almost like traditionally it was this, right? This STC 38 was the master bedroom, master bath. And now in my area, we're starting to see more of this STC 56 with that double studded wall, isolating those areas, and then the rest of it we're hitting with that standard, single layer in the cavity, 5/8 on both sides. We're seeing kind of that start to be the trend in my area. I got a lot of ski resorts where I live, and with that, obviously people outside running around. You're coming up for the holiday, so you just want that extra sound protection. And I'm seeing a lot of people kind of go that extra step in that master bedroom, bathroom area.
One thing when we start getting into double stud walls or staggered stud walls, and Randy kind of mentioned it earlier about these are perfect walls, but our walls aren't perfect. We've got outlets, we got devices, we've got stuff in them, so we can really start to affect their performance. And with double stud walls, we need to pay attention to those devices more, because you can't separate them by bays. Like if you've got a single stud wall, you can put an outlet on one side in one bay and then move a bay over before you put another outlet, right? And that helps cut down the transmission between those devices. In a double stud wall, you can still get that pathway. So you need to be careful and make sure you're sealing your boxes a lot better.
Yeah, design is so important to these high performance wall assemblies. Prior design, and putting some thought into it, and just making sure you don't have those small details that really add up to a big difference in the end. I can see how that'd be absolutely true. And then we kind of wanted to look at whether it's, when it comes to options in the world of soundproofing, we've really started to talk a lot about this, right? Randy likes his staggered stud look. You can go just a single layer, you could go mass loaded vinyl, you could go double wall with the airspace, right? You can go resilient channel. There are a lot of ways to skin a cat. And in every situation, there can be reasons why we want to kind of pick and choose different areas of that. Like for instance, this one here, you can see it also has an STC of 66, but it's a double-studded wall. Then you come over to here where your staggered stud with resilient channel, and that also has an STC of 66. So in this world of sound, there are many options, and kind of the important part is kind of understanding what's going on and how do I increase that efficiency to match my budget maybe, or to match my wall design, or things like that. There are a lot of different options that are out there and a lot of different avenues we can kind of go. Is that a fair statement, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You should put that in context too, that STC 66. Normal conversations, what, about 75 decibels, I think. So if we're in a 60, is it that low?
I thought
Okay.
That's what it said. Yeah.
So we have a baby crying at 75 or 80?
Yeah, baby crying.
Okay.
75.
So let's say we have that baby crying at 75 in a room. At 66, an STC score of 66, we can't hear it. Maybe we definitely want to monitor in that baby's room to make sure
Yeah.
that you can hear it. But I mean when you drop that down that much, you're 11, you've got 11 decibels. You can't hear that. It's a really quiet whisper, basically.
Well, a quiet room is 25, right?
Yeah, and you're way down below that.
Randy, that brings up an interesting point. Where do you guys like to be? Is there a certain design you guys prefer for your soundproofing? Because you're right, life is about balance. You're going into somebody's home, you're designing and doing for them. Maybe we can just go around and just say, what is your favorite design for your standard house? Don't pick the high end, don't pick the low end, pick the kind of middle of the road for your clients. What does that look like? Joe, you're on the bottom for me. Why don't you start? Or sorry, on the top for me.
Yeah.
Why don't you start, Joe?
To be completely honest, we don't. Some of our clients are very interested in reducing the sound from the exterior, but not really wanting to spend too much with the interior sound. So a lot of our strategies, I'd say broad strokes, it's safe and sound, or we'll insulate the ceiling between floors is kind of more common. We've done quiet rock. We've purchased it. It's extremely heavy, so anybody who's going to do that, take that into consideration. And then we've also site built it, which was, I think, probably just as easy as installing the quiet rock.
Travis, you want to add anything to that? You're on mute, buddy. Okay, fair enough.
He broke it.
Randy Rand, what about you?
Yeah, so our approach is different per wall. Like we'll look at it and analyze room to room and think, hey, this is going to be, the kids' playroom, and these are going to be this space. So we'll put a different wall in that space opposed to another one. So we won't just go standardize all walls. We'll just look at them case by case and make it happen that way. And that way, it becomes more affordable and more practical for different things. So,
Randy, that's your design side popping out. You love
I was going to say
involved in all that stuff. Now, Randy Williams, what about you?
So the last one we did was that Winnie Pretty Good house, where we had a master bedroom actually come into a second bedroom, a guest bedroom, by a few feet, and that was a big concern. They did not want any noises between the two bedrooms, so that one did get the safe and sound and the resilient channel. But then the adjacent bathroom, which was between an office and the master bathroom. They wanted some noise mitigation there, but that was just simply using safe and sound. It was, less costly.
Yeah, and a lot of what I'm seeing out there is, just using, I don't want to say just because that takes away so much of the value, but using safe and sound in a 2x4 wall, having that half-inch disconnect, sheetrocking both sides, that may not seem like it's a huge, robust assembly, but boy, is it, effective, both from a cost standpoint, from a performance standpoint, right? This really kind of has all the charm of really working for every situation. Obviously, there are some that are require more, but for the bulk of it, that really is a solid system. Substantially for what we're really working with on a day-to-day perspective. So I kind of wanted to kind of leave this here. This is an area that especially Joe and Travis, you guys focus a lot on. Stop the sound at the point of attack, right? Get that exterior insulation on. Really kind of work on making sure we're stopping that exterior noise. We're building houses so much closer together now. So having that exterior insulation is really going to help keep that noise out. And it's also great for fire. There's so many reasons to really go that extra mile on the outside. And I just kind of wanted to end it here with this idea of the next generation of soundproofing is here. And that's that exterior kind of soundproofing area. Oops. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Chris, I don't know if there's any questions in the background before we jump off, or if you guys wanted to add anything else before we leave. Maybe give Chris a few seconds here to try to jump on.
While you're uploading, Chris, can I just mention that I think the one and done is accepted until July 31st. Is that right? So if you want to be the next Randy Rand, it's not too late. You can still get in on that and get a whole house full of ROCKWOOL so that you can block the sound out, keep the fire out, keep the comfort room to room. Just a quick plug for something that I think is a pretty cool thing that ROCKWOOL does. I mean, Joe and I didn't win it, but somebody's got to be the lucky one. So yeah, get in on that.
On the back end, there was a lot of back and forth. This was pretty engaging, but we tackled everything that we could here, so we should be okay on the back end. I was just going to say, promote your socials. We didn't talk about them in the beginning when we did the quick introductions there, but you guys can all be found out there in the world. So the floor is yours before we head out.
You guys should read the Northern Built Pro blog. Like if you want to learn a bunch of other really cool stuff, there's a guy who's writing for JLC and Fine Home Building, and he's got his own blog at the Northern Built Pro. And that would be a good place to learn more about pretty much everything. If you care about high performance building, I would recommend that.
Yep, and make sure you catch the Build Show Network and Catalyst Construction's page on that. It's awesome.
If you're in the Dallas area, you can hit up the Building Science Symposium next week. There's a pretty cool show going on down there. There's all kinds of good stuff going on. What do you got, Randy? Randy Rand.
We got trainings in the northernmost part of Maine next week. So if you're in Fort Kent, Maine, come on out. We've got a builder energy code training. So giving away some cool stuff. And yeah.
Also, guys, BS and Beer. I was recently up with Randy. Wow, I haven't been to one in a little while, and it was phenomenal. Maybe touch base a little bit about your BS and Beer as well.
So we're finalizing our next meeting. We actually, our last one, we had Eric Ani show up, which was a lot of fun. We had if you don't know Eric Ani, he's one of the Build Show Network. He's an HVAC contractor. The discussion started off with some building science investigations that I was working on. And as soon as that got done, everything shifted to Eric. It was all about hydronic heating systems, which was awesome. I mean,
nice.
it was a lot of fun. But yeah.
Randy, you got to talk about yours a little. Come on, it was awesome. You got to give us a little bit more here.
Yeah, we've got a lot of good things coming up. We've got an air sealing class coming up, one on rain screens coming up. So we've got a lot of cool things and a lot of, you know, good discussions and good beer at Orono Brewing Company. So it's always a good time. We get a great variety of people, and different people show up every time, and we got a few regulars, and they're traveling, you know, an hour to get here. So it's great.
Well, you had such a cool mix between homeowners, architects, builders, you know, installers. You really had the gamut, and I think that's really what BS and Beer is about, right, guys? Getting everyone involved, talking, communicating, and I learned a ton when I was up there with Randy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
And if you want to check it out, BS and Beer, KC.org. We have our traveling BS and Beer group with that, which Travis was talking about. We'll be in Dallas. Dates to be announced. We're going to be in Chicago area and in the Boston area. So yeah, check it out. We're hoping maybe you guys will make the drive down for Boston. Do you think?
Oh, we'll be there. I'll have to go up and get Randy if I have to.
Nice.
All righty, guys. Well, thank you guys so much. What a great, you know, great sound webinar we had today. Everyone out there, if you guys haven't, take a look at these guys. Look at BS and Beer. Phenomenal time, great experience, and we look forward to seeing everyone next month. Thank you, guys, and as always,
Awesome.
Rock on.
all right, we'll see you guys.
Thanks.
See you guys.
we'll see it.
See ya.